Today's presentation is entitled Equity Fellows. What does it mean for our students? This presentation is based on the slide presentation given at the Miamisburg School Board meeting on May 18th. And what I've done essentially is taken their slides so we can discuss what the slides actually mean. This is 100% based on the materials provided at the school board meeting, and we're going to discuss those items. Now moving forward, why is my mouse not working? Okay. Oh, so basically I want to talk about the agenda for today. The agenda is we're going to break down the presentation that was given at the Miamisburg School Board meeting on May 18th, and we're going to talk about a better solution that deals with these issues. Sponsored by the National School Board Leadership Council. We'll talk about that organization a little bit towards the end of this presentation. Moving forward, I want to let you know that through a public records request, I was able to acquire all the training slides for the Equity Fellows program, all 11 sessions, through a public records request. I haven't had a chance to dive into too much yet. I'm basing this all on the presentation given at the school board meeting on May 18th. Now, this is our opening slide. It's very wordy, but let's just kind of run across it real quick. So basically, Tom Lancy from Learn and Earn, Dayton, and Shannon Cox from Montgomery County ESC identified a need for schools to address achievement gaps. They want to increase the graduation rates and providing more students with workforce and secondary credentials seems to be the objective. And it's basically, we do this, it sounds like the way they want to do this is through this Equity Fellows program. And there's some other information in here about team size and different things and how they wanted to organize the team for this program. So breaking it down, I think would we not all agree that the objective to find solutions increasing the graduation rate and providing more students with workforce and post-secondary credentials is a really good idea. We'd all applaud that. I mean, if you can come with a program to accomplish that, we'd all be very happy with that. But this is our strategy. They want to identify practices and policies that impede underrepresented students at each school. My question is exactly what does an underrepresented student mean, and what's it have to do with teaching individual skills? That's my big question there. It includes monitoring achievement and suspension data broken down by race and promoting culturally responsive teaching. Well, wait a minute. Isn't breaking things out by race, by definition, racism? If you break down a group and say these individuals are this particular race, doesn't that kind of group them together? And if as a group they're not performing well, are you going to say it's a racial issue? Is this a good idea for solving the issue of increasing the graduation rate and providing more students with workforce and secondary credentials? That is my question about this. I'm kind of skeptical at this point. Is this really a program that's going to work? So what is Equity Fellows? It's a program which educators and it's a program in which educators and teacher leaders grow together in their understanding of themselves and those around them in terms of social constructs of race. So we want our teachers to learn more about themselves. Aren't teachers supposed to be teaching skills like math, like reading, like sciences, how to interact with other individuals? Aren't these things that are common to all human beings? And why do we have to focus on the constructs of race? Aren't we all part of the human race? Why are we doing this? How does this benefit and get us towards increasing the graduation rate and providing more students with workforce and secondary credentials? So what is Equity Fellows? What do these questions mean? And I will point out that racism is defined by classifying individuals based on the color of their skin. Is this not racism? By the numbers, they have 13 sessions in 9 months. They have 3 principals, 7 teachers, and 1 specialist, representing 6 buildings across all grade levels, impacting 5,000 students. So in year 1, I suppose they want to learn how to divide people into racial groups and to know each other well, and these concepts of, what were those concepts again? Social constructs of race. again, my question is, how does this benefit education? In year 2, we want to roll this program out across a wider group.
What is that informing, focusing on informing self? What is informing self? Bottom, second last line.
Facilitating and learning of a wider commitment, focusing on informing self. Informing self of what?
Yes, precisely.
I have no clue what this means. And again, what's it have to do with education? Now, they spent $40,000, and note this is one government entity, the Miamisburg School District, paying another government entity $40,000 for a program that is supposed to help increase the graduation rate and provide more students with workforce and secondary credentials. Is this a good investment?
That's probably just the start of it, isn't it?
Well, this is for year 1. There's going to be ongoing fees. So here's some quotes. When I see you through my eyes, I think that we are different. When I see you through my heart, I know we are the same. Are we like the human race? We're all humans? Is this what this quote really means? This one kind of got my attention. Differences are essences of humanity. Differences are an accident of birth. And it should therefore never be a source of hatred and conflict. Who's talking about hatred and conflict? Do we have hatred and conflict in Miamisburg? I thought we were a family. Dr. Laura Blessing, whenever she sends out a message, she says, Miamisburg family. Do we have conflicts of hatred and conflicts in our Miamisburg family? Is this really an issue? Or are we creating an issue by just saying those words? This I find concerning.
Well, you left out the last part.
Which
of
is?
that respect for diversity.
I thought in the first sentence says difference is an accident of birth. So we shouldn't worry about it. We should treat everyone the same because they were born that way.
And why wouldn't we respect each other? Don't we just respect each other as individuals? And are we not all different in some way?
But their word, the respect for diversity, doesn't mean, it's like, again, it's like, that's not what you're saying. You're saying the opposite thing. Respect for diversity, you're different, we're still humans. We're not different, but we are different.
So we should focus on what unites us and not on what divides us, in my opinion.
Precisely.
The danger of a single story, the problem with stereotypes is that they are untrue, that they're not untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story. And how does breaking people in ethnic groups tell multiple stories? Isn't a story an individual thing, not part of a racial thing? Now, an equitable educator will acknowledge that just because it worked for me does not mean it works for my students. Now, isn't that a principle? Like if you have dyslexic kids, don't they need to be taught differently? Passion for equity leads to create a process of building a new educational system that works for all students and all educators all the time. Does this actually help us create solutions for increasing graduation rates and providing more students with workforce and secondary credentials? What do these words actually mean? Passion for equity. Isn't passion for equity meaning we're all the same, we all have equal outcomes? Isn't that a Marxist term? We have a passion for a Marxist concept. Is that what this really means? And what does an equitable educator actually mean? So my thought on this is that should we focus on how do we address issues with autism, kids that have autism? How do we address issues with kids with dyslexia? Or how do we deal with language barriers because people don't know the English language? Or what about home situations? What kind of needs do kids at home, how are those affecting? How does it affect us if we have single moms and non-nuclear families? Isn't that maybe some of the real roots of these issues? This is our last slide. They have a picture of a mug. It has dedicated to building schools that better reflect and celebrate the richness, diversity, creativity, brilliance, care, and beauty that already exists in our respective communities. Again, I wonder, how does that relate to the first statement on the first slide? We start with the second slide, from finding solutions to increase the graduation rate and providing more students with workforce and post-secondary credentials. I believe this program misses the mark based on the purpose statement given in this presentation. And I would also add to it, I think it'll create division. And it makes you wonder, is that the objective? How can anyone actually have a program like this and not realize it's going to create division? Now there's hope, because with any problem statement you want to talk about a solution. And there's an organization called the National School Board Leadership Council, and it talks about education and not indoctrination. The Equity Fellows feels more like indoctrination in the way it's written. But this organization had a 2022 summit where they have these videos on how to be a more effective school board member, training resources, board members, foundations, preparing for success, and when results really matter, and current issues happening that affect school districts. And there was this one video I really liked calling Identifying Effective Anti-Racist Strategies Preventing Violence and Disadvantage. And what's so interesting is this program runs exactly counter to the Equity Fellows program. Well, if you look at this program towards the end, well, before I get to this, I'll point out they first did a study of how these racial programs worked out, and they found out it created conflict. Those who were disadvantaged got angry about it. Did that help to motivate them to work harder, to succeed? It actually did not. The people that were considered as people that are advantaged, have advantage, did that help make them better people? It did not. So at the end, they suggested these recommendations. Don't allow your institutions to promote racist ideologies, like Equity Fellows. Foster a positive and shared identity for students and staff. We already have one. Miamisburg is the best. We are the Vikings. Why not focus on the Vikings and all the characteristics of Vikings, being strong and resilient and learning and dealing with things? And in the Marine Corps, it's green. We don't have male or female or black or white. We're all Marines. Reinforce the truth. All students, regardless of race, are equally valuable, evaluated fairly, and will receive equal treatment. And then lastly, establish a firm and actual anti-racist policy such as the one on the next slide. And this one essentially says that no school employee shall do any of the following things. Number one, teach, advocate, or advance any theory, philosophy, or belief that asserts the inferiority, superiority, lack of humanity, lack of personhood, privilege or guilt, or any race, religion, skin color, ethnicity, age, biological sex, social class, or economic class. That's not allowed. Teach, advocate, or advance any theory, philosophy, or belief that asserts that any living human is not human or is not alive. Those are the principles, and any employee that engages in these things should be terminated. Isn't that a better anti-racist strategy?
That's a good one.
What can you do next? Well, you could educate yourself on issues. You can simply attend the next Miamisburg School Board meeting. Let your voice be heard if you have a concern about things. You learn a lot of things by just showing up at school board meetings, because that's where they approve everything. And the next school board meeting is going to be on Thursday, June 15th.
The other thing you might want to suggest they do is, if they don't want, some people may not want to go, you can give the email address. They can email their school board too.
I can make that as a closing slide.
Yeah.
I thank you for your time.